The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster my good afternoon, 7 minutes after 12 midday. Mannin Line for this Thursday lunchtime on the Isle of Man. Open line, call 66 1368. Text 166 177. WhatsApp on the same number. Or email studio@manxradio.com. Talked quite a bit yesterday about the Star of India, the Manx-built ship, the Uterpe, that was built in Ramsey, that's now resident in San Diego in California. Lots of ideas, lots of comment on what was said yesterday, and got a message in from Chris Wood, who dropped me a note from California saying thanks for raising awareness of our mission to San Diego. It's been an uphill struggle raising awareness. What can we do to get Ramsey on the Manx National Heritage and Government map? Never mind California. It was home of the first oil tanker, as we've heard, home of the Star of India, home of the Queen's Pier, end of the electric railway, start of our continual governance parliament after the Battle of Sky Hill in 1079. How about RGS linking with San Diego Maritime Museum's educational program? Bring the Star of India, Uterpe, home on a creation of a virtual voyage, not the real thing, but a virtual voyage. Our history and heritage needs to be kept alive through children and school. The excuses nowadays, says Chris, seems to be no money and risk averse. We're doing our best out here in San Diego. But as Visit Isle of Man pointed out, what is there to show American visitors should they go to Ramsey if they manage to make it to the Isle of Man? As if it's the theatre group's job. Even the plaque on the quayside was donated from the North American Manx Association. Thank you. That's Chris Wood, who's out in San Diego with the theatre group at the moment, and that musical concerning the Star of India. And thank you, Nigel. Nigel Sperring dropped me a note and just said, this is where the TT, this is where the TT marketing budget should be going. Tour guides like myself and wife Nikki and some others, tour guides should be sent out there to San Diego, have a 10-day stand at the ship promoting the Isle of Man and ancestry tours. Cruise ship destination, family connection. What a way to bring and encourage people to come to the Isle of Man. So it's on a plate then. That's what I'll even pay for my own flights, says Nigel. Give a chance to do some good for tourism. Well, we have it sitting out there. It's a 365-day plug for the Isle of Man, if we did but know it. And in fact, one prominent politician on the Isle of Man, of course, used to live in San Diego, so probably looked at it on a daily basis. Anyway, any thoughts on this? If you think that's something that we should be doing, by all means, do get in touch. There's been much talk about this review of air services across the Isle of Man. It would appear that the prospect of developing a Manx Airline is being ruled out. Now, the review was only published after the former Infrastructure Minister, Mr. Thomas, demanded that it should be made public. It looks at the future of air services on the Isle of Man. It looks at passenger numbers up to 2019, routes, and also the government's open skies policy, which basically means that anybody, any airline that wants to run a route to and from the Isle of Man can basically just do it. They'll just say to the airport, this is what we want to do, and the airport then facilitates. So really there's no barrier to entry. If somebody wants to run an airline route to the Isle of Man, a closed skies policy is where it's regulated, and we would choose who we would have and which routes we would have. Anyway, Manx Radio's John Moss spoke to the Enterprise Minister, Tim Johnston.
It was a really important review to get right. DfE were asked to procure the report, but ultimately what needed to happen was we needed to get a decision group set up, and that was, of course, the Strategic Air Group, and that took time. The report needed to be shared with the relevant airlines, which it has been, and then also the expressions of interest have now gone out for the North West and the London areas. Those are things we needed to get out and in order before we got to the situation where we would come to publishing it.
Discussion document, is that how you describe it? It's giving options, it's looking at what could happen, what might happen?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a piece of detailed research. Obviously, we've had historically an open skies policy. It's looking at that, saying, is that working? What are other options?
It only goes up to 2019, though. That's one of its problems, isn't it?
But it gives an understanding of what historically was in the situation, because of course the open skies policy has been around for 30 years. So it's looking at other ways of looking at that. Clearly, government's in a position to be able to do using incentives and disincentives. That's already happening. Now it's a situation when it can be looked at.
One thing it seems to rule out is an Manx Airlines, the most expensive option it describes it as.
Well, that's right. And I know, there's a lot of nostalgia about the fact that we used to have our own airline, but ultimately what we're seeing and what it talks about is that balance between having a larger carrier, so a budget-based carrier, but also the importance of having more regional airlines and how they work together for the best interest of the island. That's what's important. Yes, in the past we've had Manx Airlines, but I think we need to remember, if we go back in 20 years, the costs involved, we're talking incredibly high ticket prices. We all, I think, welcome budget airlines and the lower costs that are available. Going back to having a national airline again, the costs involved in that would be really prohibitive.
That's Tim Johnston, MHK, talking about really where we go in the future. And it was interesting to talk to Gary Cobb a couple of weeks ago regarding the fact that we have EasyJet, how we feel about EasyJet. But remember, EasyJet is a budget airline. It's a budget airline. It is, and I'm not being derogatory, but I mean, it's a Primark airline. It's a Poundland airline. Everything is due to getting costs down on that, including the price that we pay. So do we pay our money and take our choice, or do you want something that is more expensive, potentially much more expensive? And it's all very well wanting the best thing possible, but if you're not prepared to pay for it, then you're never going to get it. You do get what you pay for. So I wonder what you think about this, bearing in mind the backdrop of this is we are an international finance centre. We're an international business centre, and lots of people do fly to the Isle of Man on business. And if you fly on business on a budget airline, chances are sometimes the plane won't fly, because particularly the late planes have been doing other legs throughout Europe. So what do we do? What do you think about this? Obviously, at the moment, there is an element of incentive for Loganair from the government to keep them here. Remember, they got us out of a real pickle during COVID. So, any thoughts on the matter? Just think back. Euromanx we had, Manx2.com, then became Citywing, and of course the late lamented Manx Airlines, which was a big industry on the Isle of Man. They employed hundreds of people, big maintenance facilities, whole building full of admin, and our own Manx Airline with the three legs flying here, there and everywhere. Any thoughts? Anyway, text, email, call and WhatsApp. And David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Yesterday I forgot the name of the great guy that was in the DOI, Bruce Hannay.
Oh, yes.
Bruce.
The highways man.
Yeah, he was great, and I hope he's listening and enjoying his retirement. But maybe, I don't know whether ex-civil servants would come on and give us a little preview. They don't like doing things when they've retired. But Bruce, I was with Bruce when we had an inquiry regarding the horse trams. He was a civilian then. He came to the inquiry where we challenged the inspector, and we still never got the track laid to the sea terminal. I was down yesterday looking at it again. I'm just wondering who owns that piece of grass. Is it the corporation or the city or the DOI? Because I've got my lawnmower sharpened, and I've got a vehicle, and I can do it at the weekend after I've been to the cenotaph in Onchan. But the little things like that, when people are coming over, it downs us a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like weeds growing in gutters and stuff like that. And before anybody comes on about Onchan, I've been going around recently looking at different places where weeds are overgrown, and I just wonder whether we could instigate something where the community gets together and do something like beach buddies do.
Interesting. I mean, that happens a lot in some big cities. They call it guerrilla gardening. Guer, that sort of guerrilla, not the other sort, but guerrilla gardening, where volunteers just take places over and do them.
Yeah, and I'd love it. And I'll send you the picture. Not today, but again, I've bought a large duck, which it's pink and it's got Onchan written on it. And I'm going to, every hole that's in Onchan has got water in the highway, I'm going to photograph it and send it to the department and saying, Happy Christmas from Onchan, from me. And this is only me, not as a commissioner. But I also wanted to say too, why we can't do things differently. We're going to have an airline going into Jersey, aren't we?
Well, there's a 6-week trial that's going on at the moment. This Blue Skies, I think it is, that are trying that out.
So why can't us as a government, and we're only taxpayers, aren't we? We're only helping them out, putting the money in there, is do little things like, how can we assist this company to establish here? How can we assist this company to have a base when, not Manx Airlines, the other company, they all had a base here and operated fixing planes. And
Well, no, I mean, Manx Airlines had a really big maintenance place. They employed hundreds of people. It was a big do. You know, lots of tax and national insurance got paid through Manx Airlines.
Yeah, and the final thing, and a little kick in the teeth at the former minister for the DOI. If he was so worried about the document, why didn't he release it when he was in there?
Well, there you are. That's for people on the inside of politics to know, and for we mere mortals just to ponder on.
Openness and transparency was the word, wasn't it?
All right. Thanks for calling. Cheers now.
Bye.
It's 18 minutes past 12 on Manx Radio. Yeah, the future of airlines, air travel on the Isle of Man. Do we want a bespoke? Do we want a Rolls-Royce solution? Do we want, something that's just for us? Or are we prepared to accept a budget airline? Now, let's face it. If you fly on a charter, if you fly on a package holiday, that's a budget airline. And we've got used to flying on budget airlines. Air travel has become very democratic in the past 50-odd years. Many, many more people, a much higher percentage of people now fly than ever used to. It was a luxury years ago. Now it's something that we may not be doing it much in the future. You never know about that. Ramsey toilets are a disgrace. Oh, we're back on toilets. Ramsey toilets are a disgrace. The public toilets near the bowl are beautiful compared to some. Thanks for that. Oh, a message in regarding the prom. Apparently the grass has been cut on the prom. Says, I did it, says Bill. You did what? You were paid for it, or you just did it? Manx Airlines was great, but the people that ran it are retired now, and I don't think the island has that quality of people nowadays. Wow. I would love it, but I think now it will be a disaster. The government now simply is not up to that. Well, you're right, Bill. Things always do look better looking backwards, and you can't reinvent the wheel. And it was a particular set of circumstances that brought Manx Airlines into being. And remember, the Isle of Man was doing very well financially. It was really on the up when Manx Airlines was around. Would it happen nowadays? Well, we don't know. If you're in the airline world and you have an idea, I'm guessing if it was going to happen, somebody would know about it and somebody will put their money where their mouth is. At the moment, nobody seems tempted to do that. Anything that government takes over is always very expensive. Look at the cost of going on the boat now. When Manx Airlines were here, the cost of flights was prohibitive. Only business people could afford Manx Airlines, says Mary. They did, I remember, what they used to call? Oh, the Farecrackers, Manx Airlines Farecrackers. They put a certain number of cheaper seats out, didn't they? Regarding a Manx-owned airline and the government being involved, closed skies, I know how it would pan out. The airlines will be paid by the government to fly here, says Pete. We'll see. And Tony B's on. Hi, Tony.
Hi, you Andy. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. It's a nice day.
Whoever it was that's just been on that you were reading out is saying exactly what I was going to say. So you stole my thunder.
Well, say it anyway.
The issue is, if you let any government in the Isle of Man get involved in anything, they spend money like water. They don't consider the money that they're spending as their own money because it comes from the taxpayer. So it's all right, we'll just spend it. And the DOI is a perfect example. How can we make this more expensive than it really needs to be? So we go and fix roads that don't need fixing, and we leave roads that have got potholes in so they don't get fixed. But the overall problem is that the people in government don't do this. They're just the mouthpieces. The ones who do it are the civil servants. And my concern is, and my argument is, that how many of those civil servants are experts in what they recommend or don't recommend? And I think we've got a complete lack of oversight by the government and the ministers into those people and their skill sets. And anyway, you go one step further than that. Oh well, we haven't got enough skill sets within the departments, so we'll go out and get some outside expert to tell us what we want to hear, and we'll spend a couple of £1 million on that. The government doesn't have a clue what they're doing. Effectively, if you look at the boat, we're not allowed to ask questions. Why is that? I thought we lived in a democracy. I thought we were going to have open government. I thought we were going to tell the truth. What happened to that rhetoric? Has it disappeared because they've got some difficult questions to answer?
I mean, the chair of the Isle of Man steam packet basically says that the government should leave them alone to run the company.
Yeah, but who is the chair? Who is he?
His name's Lars Ugland.
Where's he from? Norway.
Well, yeah, but he's also... Lars Ugland's been in shipping for a long, long time. He knows all about shipping.
That's fine. But the issue is he hasn't been in shipping in the Isle of Man. So his judgment, I think, is questionable. If you look at the Hurtigruten, which is Norwegian, it's a very simple vessel, but it's brilliant. Runs up and down a coast like a bus service twice a week, or every 2 weeks it goes up and down. And it's not a problem. But Lars Ugland, I think you'll find, has been involved in cruise ships, which is wonderful, Fred Olsen specials, but we are not a cruise ship nation. We don't need to be. We want a bus service. So if you look at the new vessel, I think there's things that are not quite right, but they're not disastrous. But when you turn around and say, don't ask me any questions, that, to me, is a question mark over their skill set in what they're doing. Are they running a bus service or are they trying to run a shipping line? I don't know. You tell me, because we're not allowed to ask questions, and we certainly don't get answers. Is Lars Ugland coming on so he can tell us what's going on? I don't think so.
Well, we've asked the steam packet if they want to come on Mannin Line. As yet, there has been no response. But they're more than welcome
that's normal, because you send in something and you say this is wrong, that's wrong, you need to do this, you need to do that, and they don't even have the wherewithal to respond and say thank you for your comments. It's appalling. I mean, I've sent in a official off the boat reference, sent it in. Unfortunately, I didn't take a copy, but sent it in with a reference, no name, but with an email reference. I've never had a response. And that was weeks ago. So that says to me that they think they are a private company. Lars Ugland needs to understand that, as in the great Norwegian tradition, they are not a public or a private company. They're a public company, and they are owned by us. So I don't have a problem with him running it. I have a problem with him not answering questions which are pertinent. I don't think that's wrong. Do you?
Well, it's not for me to have an opinion at the moment. But the situation is that the steam packet and for that matter, Manx Development Corporation are not subject to freedom of information requests. They're beyond that. There's a big fence around them, and certain things that we can't ask, let alone get the answers for.
Well, my question would be, why has that fence been put there, and who instigated it?
Well, all we can do...
Under the law of freedom of information, I thought we were allowed to ask anything about any government issue. So has that changed?
Not to the best of my notice, and certainly with lots of freedom of information, you get information back, and there are certain opt-outs, as in commercial confidentialities, and sometimes protecting people's identity. But normally, you will get, certainly within government, you'll get a response.
Except that not in this case.
No.
And why is that?
Because they choose that it's that way.
Well, that's not how the government should operate, and that's not how they promised that they would operate, and that is not very democratic. So I really think this is something that you wait until elections come round. There'll be a lot of people asking questions, what's so secret about this? And it's got nothing to do with finance, it's got to do with hiding things.
Well, as you say, it's nothing to do with finance because they made a healthy profit last year.
Yes, so don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining that nitpicking. What I'm asking is simple questions that should be answered by anybody. So it's not that we're asking difficult questions, we're just asking questions. So why is this suddenly a secret?
Well, we wait and we watch.
Well, no, we should be keep complaining is what we should be doing, Andy. The more people that phone up and complain about the hidden agendas of the government, the better. Because that's the only way that they'll realise that come election time, they're all going to get voted out. In
particular, what would you like to know about the steam packet?
I'd like to know who decided on the design. Who decided that we would put the crew on there permanently, because that's why you've got the extra deck on the top, because that's where the crew will live. So whose was that decision? And that was a commercial decision, I think, which is fine, but it was never public that there was a commercial decision to change that rotor. Second question, why were none of the steam packet captains asked about the design of the vessel? None of the crew were asked about the design of the vessel. And who approved those designs? Was it technical people, or was it Lars Ugland, or was it somebody within the steam packet, or was it somebody in DOI? Because I'd see DOI's fingers in this, but I might be wrong.
Okay.
And the only way to find out is to ask questions.
All right, thanks for that, Tony. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you, Andy. You take care. Keep going.
All right, 29 minutes past 12. Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Interestingly, that Douglas Council, are they a city yet? Anyway, they've got a city centre manager. Oliver Cheshire is now warning everybody. In fact, the council and the police are reminding you that there are plenty of spaces in the capital to go cycling, but that doesn't include the main pedestrianised shopping streets. Cycling at speed is the city shopping centre and is putting people off and putting them at risk. They've just come to this conclusion, apparently. It follows a number of complaints about people cycling in a reckless and dangerous manner in Strand Street, in Castle Street and Duke Street, which is not permitted, also contravenes bylaws, which could lead to a fine of up to £2,500. I just wonder the last time anybody was fined for cycling in Douglas. Have you been up and down there? I walk down Strand Street virtually every day. And the number of times I see people cycling there virtually every day with complete impunity. Now, Oliver Cheshire, the city centre manager, says not only does the council support active travel, but it's published its own active travel strategy and action plan a few years ago with cycling very much at its core. We also installed secure bicycle lockers in Shaw's Brow car park. But they say we need to gently remind people from time to time about the safety of shoppers in the centre who can be put at risk by those who flout traffic restrictions and bylaws. Gently remind people it's illegal to cycle. It's illegal to cycle on a pavement, and you shouldn't be cycling in a pedestrianised area. It's a bit like saying we should gently remind people that you need to stop at a red light or go on a green light. Surely everybody knows you don't cycle in a pedestrian area and you don't cycle on pavements. So when was the last time, do you know of anybody who was ever fined for cycling on a pavement or cycling in a pedestrian area? To gently remind people not to cycle in a pedestrianised area. Have you got any thoughts?
Looking for the perfect gift for your foodie friends and family? Look no further than woodburndeli.im, your go-to online haven for culinary delights and thoughtful presents. At Woodburn Deli, we offer everything from specialty spirits and wines to artisanal cheese and charcuteries. Step inside and explore perfect gifts and treats for you or your loved ones. Not to mention our selection of hand-packaged hampers. Vouchers available too. Just visit woodburndeli.im.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorials skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843 861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
Everyone's more conscious of energy usage nowadays, so Manx Utilities has begun installing smart meters for standard domestic customers island-wide. With our Smart Living app available too, you'll be in control of tracking and managing your energy. No need to contact us. We'll be in touch when we're ready to fit your smart meter. Visit the Smarter Living page at manxutilities.im. Manx Utilities, delivering a smarter future.
Hello, I'm not Maurice Powell, but I am here to tell you I'll be joining him tonight to bring you just a hint of the great music and entertainment you might have enjoyed, or maybe did if you're of a certain age, in the Villa Marina during the summer of '55, with particular reference to the wonderful all-girl band of the amazing Ivy Benson. That's the Ivy League 55, tonight on Manx Radio just after 6, and available as a podcast straight after on the Manx Radio podcast page under the Island Life series banner.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
26 minutes now before 1. Brian's on now. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Andy. We're talking about cycling. You know, cyclists think they can do anything they like. There's no matter where you go, you see notices saying no cycling. You know, across the moors and things like that, up over Barrule. No, they still cycle. They don't care. It's time something was done about cycle. You don't mind kids on the pavement, small kids. But this is getting out of hand now. You see growing up fellas in the 50s and 60s cycling along the pavement. What's this about? It's illegal to cycle on the pavement.
So why do you think grown men cycle on a pavement?
Well, I think they just don't care.
I mean, they must know. Everybody knows it's illegal to cycle on a pavement. Surely everybody knows that.
Well, the police don't do nothing about it, do they? You see people cycling past policemen walking along the street and they don't do nothing. They just look at them. It's time something was done. People are going to get knocked over. People are getting hit running into by bikes all the time now. Because they just don't care. They think they can do what they want. And no wonder you see motorists get a bit upset with them when you're driving along the road and there's 3-4 abreast. I mean, this is not right, is it? Well, especially in our roads, we don't have big wide roads.
But what about? I mean, the fact is, it was mentioned by Douglas City, the city centre manager. They've got this active travel thing where everybody's being encouraged to cycle, and indeed cycle to work. And lots of companies, pay for bikes for people to cycle to work. So we're encouraging. Certainly, a lot of people are being encouraged to get bicycles and to cycle. So it looks like there's going to be more cycles on the road.
Well, yeah, as long as they're on the road, not on the pavement. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's time there was notices put up saying you don't cycle on pavements. It's illegal, and you will be fined. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's not rocket science, this, is it?
So where's the weak link then? I mean, the city centre manager of Douglas said the maximum fine for this is £2,500, and if anybody, I can guarantee, if anybody got fined £2,500, nobody would cycle on pavements or in pedestrian areas. So where's it going to come from?
Well, you tell me. I'm just saying that is it the police? Should they be doing something? Should the politicians, should Douglas City Council be doing something? Because they've got the bylaws and they've got bylaw enforcement. They've got officers that could do this. Well, that's what should be done, shouldn't it? It's as simple as that. Police driving along the road in the cars and they see people cycling on the pavement, they should pull them over straight away and issue them with a ticket. It's as simple as that. And then we might cut down this ridiculous thing with... I see people just riding past my house. They're grown-up fellas, and they're going 25 miles an hour on the pavement. I mean, this is sheltered accommodation by me. You can hit old ladies and old people like that, you know. In fact, it could hit me. I'm an old person and all, but the thing is, what I'm trying to say is there's no deterrent because nobody does nothing. And Strand Street is a problem. There's no doubt about it. Strand Street is a problem.
Happens every day of the week. Every day of the week you'll see people cycling to it. And again, these aren't just... I've got no problem with little kids on cycles. That's fine. If they're toddlers, that's okay because they'll normally have an adult there. But when you get some big hulking brute belting down Strand Street because he feels like it...
A special electric bike as well.
Yeah. All right. Okay, thanks, Brian. Andy. Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. And by the way, before anybody starts, I'm not anti-cyclist at all. I'm just anti-people who cycle on pedestrianised areas or on pavements. In particular, one person I saw cycling up Victoria Street against the traffic, not on the road, on the pavement. Happened to be a prominent businessman from the centre of Douglas, but being a coward, I didn't point it out to him because, well, you wouldn't, would you? Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. I just listened to a couple of commentaries there on the cycling, etc. And I've just said to Howard, one of the problems could be that government, councils, commissioners, and the cycling fraternity at large have been passing out the message to the whole of the island. Now they've got this cycling brainstorm. We're all in shared spaces. So in other words, what used to be for pedestrians is cycling area. What used to be for cars is cycling area. And that's the mindset that's developing now.
That's interesting because, of course, Douglas Promenade now is a shared space, isn't it?
Correct, yeah. And you look at that one where they put Pole Road Bridge and they put virtually a full carriageway up through there. And our granddaughter was nearly run down by a couple of cyclists on the NSC side of the Humpback Bridge. They were on bikes coming down and virtually, well, more or less running over. And I was in Chester Street car park last week, and a young fella, a teenager, on one of the electric scooters going the wrong way, and believe me, he wasn't hanging about. He was motoring down through, and he went out down the ramp at the far end. And as I say, this is where a few prosecutions to bring them back in line again. They think they got carte blanche to do what they want. And the number of ones you see cycling down Peel Road, for all that green paint and the cycle lanes, you see very few using those cycle lanes. They're all on the pavement.
You see, I'm sure, Howard, that the overwhelming majority of cyclists are intelligent people who understand the rules of the game, but there are always a few people who think that the rules don't apply to them.
That's correct. And I don't. That's one of life's problems, you're going to have an awful job to change that. You're always going to get the idiots. And that's what these people are, the problems. And they interpret that shared spaces, and they will throw that at a constable, a constable in the street. But this is a shared space. Now, that man has got to stand there and argue with these people then and discuss the law. So I should imagine in most instances, just as they ought to hell with it, just walk past them. And I've seen them doing it. I've been down in the street, and as you rightly say, they're not hanging about. And there was 2 or 3 bikes fastened up to the straps in the street. Outside the various shops, they've got these hoops where you can tie your bike to. So obviously the council, or as they call themselves now, the city, and that manager of the city, they've encouraged it. They've encouraged people to come into the town with their bikes and into the street. So it's down to the council, the government, and the politicians as a whole. Shared spaces don't work.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Howard.
Take care. Bye now.
Good to hear from you. Cassie dropped me a note in just to say, you asked what sort of people cycle on pavements and in pedestrianised areas, said Cassie. I'll tell you, inconsiderate, rude bullies who think that they know full well they shouldn't be doing it, but they still do it. These are the sort of people who throw litter and also don't clean up after their dogs. Well, I don't know about that, but it's always a minority that will spoil it. But it doesn't get away from the situation that you're not allowed to cycle in a pedestrianised area. The clue's in the title. You're not allowed. It's illegal to cycle on a pavement. Unless other signs contradict that and say, like on Douglas Promenade, it's a shared space. But you're just not allowed to. If you want to take a cycle on a pavement, you put it by your side and you walk with it. Otherwise, you cycle on the road. It can't be much more simple than that. With more and more cycles coming on the road, fine, but there are rules to the road, and that's one of them. Rather rules to the pavement, i.e. you're not allowed on it. And Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. It might be worth mentioning on that subject to do with e-scooters that Paris, their trial has come to an abrupt halt. 1st of September, they banned all e-scooters after hundreds injured and 3 dead. So they weren't too happy with their trial. So e-scooters perhaps are not the best way to go if we're looking at that particular type of thing.
And just for the record, you've never taken that motorbike of yours on a pavement, have you?
No, no need to.
Well, that's not a facetious question. But I mean, you wouldn't. Nobody would take a motorcycle on a pavement. Now, and the rules are you don't take a cycle on a pavement. And as you say, some of these are electrified, so they've got power behind them. So I just can't understand why some people struggle with that.
I know. But the problem is, of course, the lower age limit doesn't help either. I think there were suggestions down to 14 years old for over here. It's kind of, 14-year-olds may not have the best judgment at times, just with lack of experience.
Mm. Anyway, that wasn't why you called.
Exactly. Just about Isle of Man Airline. Just off the top of my head here, the aircraft manufacturer ATR that we see with Aer Lingus and Loganair that come here, their latest model, the ATR 72, the 600 series, they've got an option on that flight which is called Clear Vision, which I mentioned to Gary Cobb the other day. They've been having those at Aurigny, the Channel Islands airline. Yeah. And they've cut their fog diversions by half with no investment in ground equipment. Because I think Gary was saying that they're spending money on the instrument landing system and various things and the runway visual range detector. Now, these ATRs cost about $22 million each. So if you bought a couple of those, you'd be about half of the half-tide dock ferry terminal with its cost overruns. And by the time you're finished with any of these wind farms, you probably find that a couple of those planes would probably cost about half of what that will end up with inexperience of the MUA never having installed or built a wind farm, and also unrealistic estimates for the cost of the road building to get a wind farm either up to Druiddale or Erie Stane. But I think the travel security with less delays, if you've got that thing that can basically look through fog, presents quite a good business case if we stop spending money on other silly things. If a UK business knows that they've got a secure link to here and the same vice versa, and the travelling public know that they're going to be able to go on holidays, especially if you know that you can get here. I mean, if you're halving the fog diversions with an equipment, which means that equipment on that plane will allow you to go to any other runway on any other airport with that advantage. So it's not just coming this way into fog. I mean, you do sometimes get fog in Liverpool and Heathrow and places. So I don't know, that business case, I think there is a case to be made for maybe starting, small with a couple of aircraft and not spend 80 to 100 million on vanity projects that probably won't benefit the island.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy.
All right. Good to hear from you. And Tommy's on now. Hi, Tommy.
Oh, Andy. Street cleaning, Andy. Particularly where I live, we don't have any trouble in our avenue. We're not tree lining the avenue. But when I get down to Victoria Road and turn up towards ShopRite, I mean, it's a disgrace. There's been no attempt to brush any of the fallen leaves up, Andy. And it's potentially dangerous as well. There's somebody to slip and have a fall. And I was just telling I remember the chap that used to go round with that bin on wheels. Do you remember that, Andy?
I do, yes. But nowadays they only seem to do a couple of runs every autumn to get all the leaves up. I don't think they do it that often now.
Well, they don't do it at all down here, Andy. It's terrible. It's covered the pavement as well. Somebody's going to slip and have a fall. And it's just ridiculous, and it should be. Does that bin still exist on wheels, Andy? Because I'll go back and get it done. I'll do it myself, Andy.
It'd suit you, Tommy. It would really suit you.
I tell you what, I'd have it done in no time, Andy. I'm a good worker, mate. I'd have it done. Listen, and free of charge as well, Andy. How about that?
Oh, don't say that. Somebody might take you up on it. Thanks, Tommy.
Cheers, Andy.
We are ready to go at B&B Furniture with a wide range of manager specials throughout the store. If it says I'm ready to go, then it is ready to go. Priced in-store for immediate delivery and no long wait for stock to arrive onto the island. Get the furniture you're longing for with no wait, no deposit required and 0% finance available when you get ready to go at B&B Furniture. It's all here under one roof at the B&B Furniture 3-storey showroom in Snugborough.
B&B Furniture.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells Skips will bring to you.
Need quality Type 1 stone for your building or contracting job? Then contact Tells with no minimum order for collection or delivery. Call 677 137. Visit Tells Limited in Snugborough or find Tells Limited on Facebook.
Skips are what they do.
We're the guys that hire one to you.
Call Tells Skips today.
677 137.
When you save a little money, it means a lot these days.
If you're looking for bathrooms and tiles, you'll always find something new in store at Pacesetter. For surprisingly affordable prices and excellent choice, search online for Pacesetter Douglas. Or better still, visit the Pacesetter Bathroom and Tile Showroom on Harris Terrace and see the new styles in store.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
Hello, I'd like to rent a car for 3 days. Just something reasonable.
No problem at all. We've just got a few rules to make you aware of. You can't go off island, you can't smile in the car, you can't take any friends, it's £10,000 a day, and you'll need £1 million deposit up front. Any questions?
Renting a car doesn't need to be so difficult or expensive. With prices from just £50 per day, speak to Rex Rental Company or book online at rexrental.im.
Rex Rentals. I'm so glad to hear that.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
Tell Skips are first choice for all your domestic or commercial skip needs. And this weekend, they're offering you the chance to win a £200 voucher to spend at 1886 Bar and Grill.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win. You can enter as many times as you like.
And the winner will be picked on Manx Radio Breakfast on Monday morning.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
9 minutes before 1. Jimmy's with us now. Hi, Jimmy.
How you doing? All right?
Good, thanks, yeah.
Yeah, Andy, you asked a question before, who was the last people to be prosecuted on the Isle of Man for riding their bikes down Strand Street. Well, I was one of them.
Oh, Jimmy, when was this?
The summer of 1972.
Oh, crikey. All right.
50, there was me and my brother. Yeah, 50-odd years ago.
Yeah.
There was me, my brother, two mates. We were riding our bikes on Strand Street. We were pulled over by the police. We were marched up to the police station. We were put up in front of the Deemster, which was Milcrease at the time, if I remember. And we were all given a conditional discharge and told not to do it again.
And did you?
Yeah, I think so. Can't really remember. But we were prosecuted for riding our bikes. And every time I go down Strand Street now with my wife on a Saturday afternoon, and I see somebody riding a bike down Strand Street, I kind of remind my wife that I was prosecuted for that.
Oh, wow. On a serious note, though, when you're there, we're in Strand Street with your wife, what do you think about people riding bikes down a pedestrianised area?
Well, I kind of want to stand in front of them. I just want them to know that it's wrong. You know, you could hit somebody, you could hit a child, you could hit a woman with a pram, somebody coming out with a shop. And they're not going down the street slowly either. You know?
Yeah.
It's just one of them things. And, you know, you see them coming down one-way streets, you see them riding on pavements. You very rarely see a police officer in Strand Street now to do anything, really.
It's 51 years, though. But, Jimmy, do you remember when the police officer put his hand on your shoulder?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, don't do it again. But, you know, I always remember standing in front of, like, say, Mr. Milcrease, and he kind of looked at us and said, "Not again, boys. Don't do it again." And that was it. Conditional discharge and a clip from the ear hole from the elbow.
Oh, blimey, you'd never get away with that. All right. Thank you. No. Thanks, Jimmy. Good to hear from you.
No problem. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers now. 51 years ago. Nick's on now. Hi, Nick.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. Can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear, Nick.
Okay, well, I've got a comment on the bike situation. As a driver of a vehicle, it annoys me to no end seeing six abreast or people riding as if they're in the Tour de France. That drives me absolutely bonkers, and I don't think there's any need for it. It should be single file. However, I ride a bicycle as well, and I ride to work sometimes. I go from Ramsey to Andreas, and I will sometimes at 7:30 in the morning, I will jump on the pavement just because I hate the fact that if I'm in a vehicle, I've got to pass that person. I've got to get to work. It's an absolute nuisance, and there's nobody on the pavement at that time. However, I do know it's illegal, and most of the time I will ride on the road, like 99% of the time. What I have noticed is like the awkward line painting that was done by accident from I think near the Church Wildlife Park. That, even though it was a mistake, it still helps when I've ridden on that road as on a bike, you know. So if we have a line painted anywhere, it doesn't have to be, you know, more than 80 centimeters wide, you know, just the length of the width of handlebars. That would deter people from, you know, driving too close to the pavement, you know, as a vehicle, and it would make cyclists feel more safe. Also, I believe we should tax cyclists now. I think it's about time we started taxing, you know. There's no reason why we shouldn't.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. It's good to hear from you, Nick. Thanks for getting back to us.
Thank you.
Glad the mobile connection hung out there. We lost Nick earlier on today. Thanks for that. Point one, let's just get this straight. I'm not anti-cyclist. I don't think anybody is anti-cyclist. What we don't like is people who break the law. If it's a pedestrianised area, you're not supposed to ride a bicycle. Don't pretend that nobody else notices. Everybody does notice if that's you cycling or cycling on a pavement. everybody notices. It's just that people don't say anything. And of course, nowadays you probably wouldn't get away with a citizen's arrest. Anyway, hey, Beach Buddies is heading south this weekend and going for the first time this year anyway, to Fort Island, that gorgeous peninsula out past the Castletown Golf Links Hotel, or what used to be it. Now it looks like the Munsters live there. Anyway, this coming Sunday morning from 10:30, join Bill's band of Beach Buddies binning bags of bad stuff. Last weekend, had a great time at Port Moor. Yet more new volunteers, 8 new faces took part and enjoyed themselves. So, that's this coming Sunday, Fort Island, just past Castletown Golf Links, Sunday morning from 10:30. The Beach Buddies people would love to see you. Can you tell me what Salter's duck is? What is Salter's duck? Now, it's not to eat, not to play with. The man who knows all about it is Clive Callister. Many people have asked whether tidal and wave power will ever work on the Isle of Man. Now, a man who knows of what he speaks is Clive Callister, and he's on Mannin Line. We're talking renewable energy and wave and tidal power in particular. That's next Tuesday on Mannin Line. Thanks to Howie on the phones today. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
WINT